have them on the way. Can you relax?
Shot many times.
Okay, ma'am, you have to give me the information I need. Is the person that shot him still there?
John DuPont.
John DuPont shot him?
Yes.
Do you know what the story is? Why did he do that, man?
Mark Schultz has been in control of this match from the very start. And he takes Nakashima to the back, kicks him the other way, and that's it. Technical superiority, Mark Schultz.
I think there's this misconception that if you win an Olympic gold medal, life is like roses and jelly beans or something. It's not anything like that.
Hideyuki Nakashima, Japan really was no match for Mark Schultz.
I'm the only 84 Olympic champion to win the 85 World Championships. And I had 3 NCAA titles.
Silver and Rinky.
But I was unemployed, living hand to mouth, doing wrestling clinics, trying to survive. There was just no support. There was no money. And USA Wrestling, you know, they gave us a plane ticket to go compete, a hotel, some food, and that was it. Eastern Bloc wrestlers got infinite amount of support compared to us. Monthly salary, they got health insurance. They kick our butt. And in order to compete against these professional Russians, you have to voluntarily impoverish yourself to spend that much time training. I had no way to achieve my potential. I had no way to survive. I'm sitting at my dad's house, Palo Alto. I get a call, I pick it up, and it's this guy named John DuPont. The DuPont name itself I recognized. So I knew there was a lot of money there. I packed up my stuff, I flew to Pennsylvania. He picked me up in the airport with a helicopter. He tells me that he wants to start a wrestling program and wants me to be the assistant coach. It sounded like the answer to all my prayers. Flew over Valley Forge and all these cracker box houses, and then opened up into what looked like a state park. And that was the DuPont estate. I was so impressed.
The John E. DuPont story begins here, near Philadelphia, in the rolling woodland of Pennsylvania, on a 1,000-acre estate that the DuPont family have called home for 3/4 of a century. The walls of his home are covered with sports memorabilia and a few famous faces, prime ministers and presidents. DuPont, one of the largest single shareholders in the company that gave the world nylon, Teflon, and Dacron, is nothing like the popular image of a multi-millionaire.
There are many disadvantages to having money, and that is you are targeted by a great number of people who would like to take it away from you. However, there's many advantages to have it, and if you use it wisely, like I try to do, it gives me a great deal of pleasure and enjoyment in helping other people in education and in athletics.
John's primary interest at the time was to provide an opportunity for Olympic caliber wrestlers to train at his estate in Newtown Square. He always lamented the fact that the Eastern Bloc countries were paying their athletes, and we had no comparable program in the United States. He understood what the sacrifice was by each athlete, and he endeavored to make it easier for other people who didn't have the same resources that he did.
He basically paid us to wrestle. He wanted athletes just to train, not have to work. It changed everything.
To have that much access to wrestling and getting paid the amount that we were getting paid. It was definitely a very, very unique environment.
I was the best wrestler in the nation at the time. It gave him the credibility he needed to attract other wrestlers.
We got quite a few kids here tonight for our practice.
By bringing in the best wrestlers that America had, he would develop a program that would be second to none, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And that's what his dream was.
He was giving $500,000 a year to USA Wrestling. Wrestling had never had that kind of money. When John started thrusting his money and his backing into this organization, it just took off.
We won our first national title. First year that we entered nationals.
We worked very, very hard on all fronts. You know, training like crazy, participating in wrestling at the national, international levels. And it was awesome. The farm was an amazing place, and I really enjoyed living on the farm.
It's free rent, free utilities.
Rolling hills and thoroughbred horses. Unbelievable. John said, my door's always open, and you could go in the house anytime, and he would joke around with you and come in and, hey, what's up, guys?
How you doing there, guys?
We're just touring around.
Looks like you're great.
John lived with his mother in what they called the big house. Both he and his mother did a lot of competitions, so there were a lot of trophies. One room was just called the trophy room.
This room is the main trophy room where a lot of our sports trophies are housed for beagles, wrestling, horses, ponies, swimming, modern pentathlon, and the entire sports history of the DuPont family that was started by my mother and my father back in 1910. My father used to race his horses under the name Foxcatcher Farms. I inherited the Foxcatcher name. Since I had more than one team, I called the thing Team Foxcatcher.
Winning was very important to him. A lot of it was related to how his mother saw him. He had made comments that he didn't always live up to her expectations.
He spent a great deal of time with the wrestlers, more time with them than he did with the swimmers or triathletes.
There's a great misconception in the world that wrestlers are a bunch of dumb athletes. This is wrong. They are a very intelligent group. You must have a killer instinct in you in order to be successful in this sport.
We're going to turn John into a Mark Schultz clone.
I always thought that there might be an element of him wanting to become associated with blue-collar athletes. We were at a dinner honoring the wrestling program. John's mother made several comments during the course of the evening. I just wish John wouldn't be involved with these people. And that's not what John should be doing with his life. He had a great deal of difficulty dealing with those issues.
Transformation of John DuPont.
John's mother was very intimidating. I never knew how she felt about me.
Gail was not the royalty that she had hoped that John would someday marry. And so she was not supportive.
John and I came from very different backgrounds, but it really didn't matter to me I loved him.
Yeah. One big happy family. Everybody's having a lot of fun.
I won the 87 World Championships and became the first world champion for Team Foxcatcher. He wanted to promote Team Foxcatcher as this team that creates world champions. And he hired this photographer. They covered me with baby oil, and I was the poster boy for Team Foxcatcher.
John was enamored with Mark's accomplishments. In his mind, Mark was the epitome of the freestyle wrestler. He was the prototype.
It just made me real uncomfortable. After I won the Worlds, he just would not leave me alone. He just had to, you know, I don't know, he just had to invade my privacy.
Hi there.
John just fixated on him is really what it comes down to. And Mark didn't like it.
Mark's a champion, and John liked being around champions. We always said gold rubs off on gold.
And he knew that. He knew if he associated with winners, it would rub off on him, which it did.
As you can see, 1987, Team Foxcatcher National Champions. 1988, Team Foxcatcher National Champions. It's a beautiful thing.
But it rubbed off on me the wrong way. He just wouldn't let me train. He wouldn't let me live in peace. I just couldn't focus. And I was running out of time. The 1988 Olympics were coming up. Maybe I should have left right then. I was just trying to make the best of a lousy situation. One day, he took me to this museum that he had created called the Delaware Museum of Natural History. And when we went in there, it was full of dead animals, all stuffed and mounted.
You seem a bit damp around the eye.
He collected shells and birds, and I just felt like it all made sense, you know, that he would have something like that. I was collecting wrestlers.
John was really trying to control a lot of the aspects of Mark's life. We had some meetings where Mark indicated to me that John was stifling him and trying to interject himself into Mark's life.
The pressure to win was increased exponentially. You need stability to be successful in anything. And I got the complete opposite of that. I couldn't make it work. And at the 80 Olympics, I lost. I blamed DuPont. All he had to do was leave me alone. I went back to Team Foxcatcher's farm. I packed up and I left. I never wrestled again.
The full impact of Mark having left the program affected him a great deal. His mother had passed. It was a very challenging time for him. But when all was said and done, John was not a quitter. So when Mark left, he said, guess what? I'll show you.
Go!
Dave Schultz had the most sensational career, had become an international success before he was ever in college, was world champ and Olympic champion in 1984.
Dave and I are the only American brothers to win world and Olympic gold. We're the first brothers to win Olympic gold in the same Olympics.
Schultz is leading for the gold medal. We're down to 5-4 for the gold medal. 2-1. He wins it. Dave Schultz wins the 4th gold medal in a row for the United States. A very difficult opponent.
I was in awe of what they did. I sort of wondered where that all came from.
Phil was an actor. I was a designer.
We would be considered by them to be sort of arty.
Wrestling was completely different. I mean, I didn't know the first thing about it.
We were really fierce sibling rivals. See right here? That's Dave's broken nose right there. But we were real fierce allies against everybody else.
I enjoy competition, and I won World Cup and World Super Champion match already this year. So I'm trying to decide what I really want to do now and that kind of thing.
Dave called me and said, hey, I might take a job at Foxcatcher. And I was like, well, I wouldn't, but it's your life. He wanted to continue wrestling. So, what was he going to do? He could continue being an assistant coach at Wisconsin, or he could get paid to wrestle at Foxcatcher.
Dave packed up his whole family and moved to Pennsylvania.
John was very excited that he was going to have a person who he considered to be the best technician in the sport of wrestling in the United States.
Dave had this unique personality that really shined through in a lot of different situations.
Slide your arm under, punch yourself in the nose, roll it down, leg over, and look for your fall. I call that the Dave or the Olds. That's called the Olds move. But loosening up, or the Schul. This is the Schul. That was the Olds. And then there's the Dave and the...
Dave was always into new, interesting things. He was always reading, and he learned jiu-jitsu and Tai Chi. We would tease him a little bit about his music, because he'd always play this music while he's doing his Tai Chi.
This is a distraction for me, isn't it? Yes. The Oriental music can bring out your kind of inner self, I should say.
Everyone thinks he's such a nice guy, because when he walks off the mat, his personality changes. But in reality, Dave was pure brutality. There was no mercy in Dave on the mat. None. And that's the way you gotta win in wrestling. The more brutal you are, the better you are. He was the best.
I was in awe of the way Dave wrestled. I didn't understand how a human being my weight, my size, could just effortlessly beat me to a pulp.
It was like wrestling a python.
Keep your chest down, and now just roll it out.
If you got a hold of your head, you were in big trouble.
Dave embraced John's way of thinking with regards to having Foxcatcher find a way to beat the Russians and to be the best. Dave treated John like a friend, like a peer, like another wrestler.
John spent a huge amount of money, probably 6 figures, to develop an Olympic caliber training center.
Yeah, for the forward to the day when this is all wrestling room. And weights, so we don't have to do skip ropes anymore. Oh my God.
Wow, here we are in the new wrestling room.
In order to fulfill your dream, you must first have the dream. And that's my dream. It's for America to be the best of the best. Thank you.
Once he brought Dave Schultz in, it really clicked. It started clicking. People wanted to be there. The best of the best wanted to train at Foxcatcher. It was contagious.
It was like we could be unstoppable now, you know. There was no limit. We could do what we wanted anytime. We had our own private plane. We can go anywhere we wanted to go. Tournaments in Cuba, we went to Russia, went to Turkey, Bulgaria. It blew us all away. It was like a wrestling paradise. It's too good to be true.
Look where I've led the lamb, into the lap of luxury with my hero. Where's Len? There he is.
Well, this was absolutely a new era at Foxcatcher. We became way more powerful, much stronger team than we even were before.
I feel really good.
Rico Ciparelli moved out to the farm. He was a very strong competitor. We also had the guy that wrestled at 220, Mark Coleman. By 92, Kevin Jackson was on the team, and he was Olympic champion in Barcelona. Kerry and Tom Brand, doing great. They're wrestling phenomenally. All this effort that we'd put into building this club was starting to show results.
It was just really running on all cylinders at that time.
1993 was the first time ever that the American freestyle team had beat the Russian team in the World Championships, and that was a hugely significant thing for wrestling.
That was unheard of before that.
It was a highlight of John's life. He had finally achieved his goal, which was to place American wrestling at the forefront.
I was kind of bitter about what had happened. It was a different situation for Dave than it was for me. But I always wanted him to win, you know.
Foxcatcher was not only the place to train, it was also a family. My whole identity was wrapped up at Foxcatcher.
We spent a lot of vacation time together, a lot of birthdays. We had a tremendous sense of community.
Dan was the big tough guy. Dave was a jokester. And everyone was characters.
John opened up his doors in the big house for us to get meals if we wanted. We were over there watching movies. We played pool.
John didn't have a lot of friends, and the fact that we were making him a part of the community was kind of all he really wanted.
He said we're more of a family to him than his own family.
I remember him telling me that as a child he felt very isolated. His brothers and sisters were older, and so most of them were already out of the house. His parents were divorced, so it was just him and his mother.
His mother actually would pay people to be his playmates. He was very disappointed when he found out that people had to be paid in order to spend time with him. That was a practice that continued throughout the rest of his life.
What do you think about life on the farm with John DuPont?
John set up a trust fund for us. Myself, Dave Schultz, Dan Shade. John told us, you know, he cares a lot about us, and we are family to him, and, you know, he wants us to help us accomplish our dreams. The trust fund was $250,000 a person. Christmas before, I got a deed for 10 acres land on the farm.
Well, John, I don't know what to say to you.
Merry Christmas, Robbie. Hey there, Robbie. Hey, Merry Christmas. Go fast. Wrestle hard.
Thanks. A million. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, right.
Don't break up the boat.
From the time I met John, it became apparent to me that he was something of an eccentric. He was a prankster. He enjoyed putting something over on somebody else. And sometimes he did it in unconventional ways.
These fish are cooperating today.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
For anyone who's competitive, that drive to achieve and to win is so important. And when you can't do that, it really affects how you see yourself.
Here he was, a man of substantial means who did everything he could to achieve Olympic greatness and couldn't do it. And yet here were people who had limited means who were able to do it.
John wanted to wrestle so bad in competition that he came up with the ideas of having masters. It's 50 and older. John funded the whole competition. We didn't want to see him get hurt because he really didn't know how to wrestle. So he'd go up or down depending on who wasn't in a weight class, and he'd win that automatically without even wrestling. Sometimes he had to wrestle. And the more he started wrestling himself, the more he believed how good he was. He felt more validated. Like now I'm up here with Dave. Dave was just nice as could be. He'd say, okay, John.
He felt like people would respect him more if he competed, and we just tried to go along in his little fantasy world.
John helped us out so much and did so much for us that it's a small thing that we could do for him to, you know, make him feel like a champion.
And he loved it.
It came down to wanting to prove that he was at least their equal. He wanted to achieve something on his own, not because he was a DuPont. He just wanted to be one of the guys. It was a hollow achievement.
He had his trophy in the trophy case with everyone else's, and he would have posters made and him wrestling and be on the walls. And then it was like he was trying to tell you how to wrestle now and coach you. And everyone would just laugh about it because it was just funny.
And I think John probably picked up on that. John could never handle rejection. That was something that he couldn't deal with. He became more and more isolated, and it just became a downward spiral.
John should be running around here somewhere. There's the big house. He started staying away from us. He started keeping himself distant from us. He stopped coming to wrestling practice. And he didn't invite people up to the house as much either. It was just weird, strange. Just trying to figure out what happened, what's going on.
I began receiving some reports from some of the wrestlers that John was spending a great deal of time looking at videotapes of the sky, of the area around the farm, and looking for forms in the clouds, looking for forms in the trees.
He started filming everything. He would focus in on a tree in just one spot, or the concrete inside the hangar.
What's this, a shark down here?
Or the concrete in his basement, or a wall in his basement. And he would have hours and hours of these videos. And if you went to the big house, he'd want you to sit there and watch them with him.
He would say, okay, now watch. And so you'd watch for 10 minutes, and then he'd say, did you see that tree move?
He started really fearing that there was something on the farm moving bushes around, moving the trees around. He'd say one day, you know what? That tree over there is looking at me, looks like a face, doesn't it? Look at the eyes, look at the ears. And you know what? I want it cut down. So he would have a tree cut down. Boom, it's cut down.
I said to John, look, I really think that you may be imagining some things that are happening here, and that I have somebody that I would like you to come and talk to. And he said, who is it? I said, he's a psychiatrist at the University of Pennsylvania. We scheduled a time for him to come in, and at the 11th hour, he canceled. So I went back to John again and suggested that he come in at least to get some medication. And his answer was, I don't need any medication. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong.
John hired a security team to oversee the farm. He was really intent on finding out what the threat was. He had a security booth put at the front gate, so anybody that went in and out of the farm, they would have to get clearance.
They would come in the wrestling room, put a ladder up, and push the tiles up with flashlights and guns, like in the middle of practice.
There was a little bit more of an element of like, uh-oh, it's getting a little more sketchy out here. It's getting a little more serious.
I call him from time to time, talk about, what's going on and stuff. Dave never really spoke to me about, like, anything crazy.
The property changed from a working farm to a militarized zone.
From the world's perspective, we were on fire. We were the best things. We were it in wrestling at the time. But what was actually happening was John's paranoia was eating away, and it would take so much of our time off the mat to make sure that he was okay.
It's my personal belief that he was going into psychosis because of his drug and alcohol use.
I never actually saw him take drugs. He had all the signs. His nose was bleeding. He would be cutting into his arms, be cutting into the furniture, like saying there's bugs on him.
And I went to him a number of occasions to try to get him help. At one point, he broke down and cried, huge tears, saying, Dan, I know I need help. I'm going to get help. I love you like a brother. Please don't leave me. Whatever you do, don't leave. I had my arms over his shoulders, and I just felt horrible for him. Dave told me that he'd tried the same thing. He'd gone down and offered to take him to the Betty Ford Clinic.
Dave was the one that could really reach John, but it was bigger than what Dave could actually handle.
We didn't know what to do after that.
One of the options was to seek to have him committed on a short-term basis, at least so that he could be evaluated and perhaps get the medication that he needed. The problem was, as I explained to them, if we file a petition, they would have had to testify against John. And of course, their view was, look, if we testify against John, we're off the property tomorrow.
If you left, then you're back at square one again, going back to a job and trying to work out and finding a place to live.
It's just too good to be true, ladies and gentlemen. Robbie's running with the horses.
Am I winning?
He's winning.
So there was no witness now. There was nobody to come in and testify and nobody to file a petition.
And John's clever enough to probably get out of it or do something else. You know, he'd hire a gang of lawyers and doctors that say he's fine.
Anytime he had a problem, he either bought his way in or bought his way out. And when you have that type of situation, you know, eventually you come to believe that you are invincible, that you can do anything and not have to suffer any consequences.
I never thought he would hurt anybody in a million years.
He pushed me down on the bed. He was holding me down. When I tried to get up, he grabbed me by the throat and he was strangling me. He told me that he could kill me and he would never spend a day in jail because of who he was and who his connections were. That was the reason I left. I was afraid that if I stayed any longer, I would end up dead.
John was getting so paranoid that he would carry a gun to practice. He put the gun right on the table before he ate. Like the old Western movies, you know?
There was guns everywhere on that farm. There's so many guns.
It was all normal. I mean, I heard gunshots there all the time. Mostly Dave shooting things.
He felt that was one of the great assets of being on the farm, was to be able to go hunt and to go fish.
Dave was fascinated from guns from the time he was a little kid. Our grandfather gave him some guns when he was little and, taught him how to clean it and reload bullets and stuff. He's always been interested in that.
I was at the farm one day and John said to me, "What are my rights if somebody comes up to my front door with a gun?" And I said, "Who are you afraid of?" And he never had an answer to that. It was always, you never know who it might be.
The whole reason I came to Foxcatcher was to become a world Olympic champion. By 1994, that took a back seat to not only John, but what was good for the team. And what was good for the team was taking care of John. So that became my role. He called me up and said, "Tony, I need you to come up to the big house and stay with me because I just fired my security guards." He started fearing that they were doing something. I said, "Sure, I'll help you out." I was sound asleep, and all of a sudden, I feel this tapping on my cheek. And I'm like, "What the heck is this?" And I grab my cheek, and I look up, and John is looking at me, standing there with a gun. "Tony, if you don't tell me what's going on, I'm going to take away your scholarship. I'm going to take away the money I give you. Who is the threat on this farm?"
It was October 12th, 1995. I was in the weight room. John comes in the far door. I turn around, I say, "Oh, hey, John, how you doing?" And he was shaking, and his teeth were gritting, and his eyes were very red, and he snapped the gun up at me, a machine gun. "Don't you with me. I want you off this farm." And I just kind of slumped my shoulders a little bit, and I said, "John, I don't know what this is about. I've just only tried to be your friend." And then he just backed off, and he put down the gun and turned directly around and went straight out of the gym. Everybody was on a farm. I just said, hey, look, you guys, let's just go. It's not worth it. Someone's going to get killed. I pleaded with Dave, listen to me. You have to go. He just wasn't really paying attention to what I was saying at the time. He was making excuses. Part of the reality is that everything that people had worked for, invested into that club, into that place, they just weren't at a position to just throw it all out and give up on it at that time. And when I drove away, I drove away.
I was talking to Dave, and I said, you gotta get out of there. You gotta get out of there now. And he said, Mom, this is not a good time for me to leave. I'm training for the '96 Olympics. Besides, I can handle John. John knows I'm his friend.
I told David, and I'm sure I wasn't alone, that John's behavior was of deep concern to me, and that I was really worried about what would happen.
I don't think Dave would have ever left. He liked it there. His family liked it. He loved the farm. We wrestled in Nice in a tournament in France. Prince of Monaco wanted to start an Olympic wrestling team and offered Dave a job, wanted him to come and bring wrestlers and whoever and stay and live there. And we're saying, yeah, Dave, let's go. So when we got back to Pennsylvania, Dave wrote to Prince Albert and said, thank you very much, but I already wrestled for the Prince of Pennsylvania.
Dave was doing amazing things in '95, World Cup champion, U.S. Nationals champion. Dave had tunnel vision. He wanted to make the '96 team. He wanted to be an Olympic champion again.
He was really improving as an athlete, still at the age of 36. He had a shot at winning 96 Olympics, for sure.
That was the tragedy about this, is that John was so paranoid that he wasn't able to enjoy any of the success, really. Dave would challenge him, and he was the only one that would challenge him. That kept Dave under suspicion with John now, and that I don't think Dave fully comprehended that.
Dave had a way of making you see yourself the way you are, like he did that with me, and it really used to just make me so angry. I just want to kill him, And I wonder if he did this with John too. But John doesn't have the kind of self-control.
One night, we were at a party on the farm at a wrestler's house. Dave was on the deck, and he had his toy bazooka gun out. And what he was doing is firing bottle rockets off the deck, and it was going towards the big house. John was at the party. John saw it, and it really, really affected him. He pulled me outside of the party. He said to me, I'm positive that the threat is on the farm, and I've identified the threat. And I'm going to get rid of it.
up in his silver Lincoln Continental. He pulled up to Dave's house. Dave was working on his car, trying to fix the radio. Dave saw him pulling up. Went over to the car and said, "Hi, Coach." And DuPont said, "You got a problem with me?" And pulled out his gun and pointed it at Dave. And Dave raised his hands and I think said, "Whoa, John." He shot him in the arm once. He was still on his feet. And then he shot him again, and it went through his back, his stomach and his back, and through the car window, and broke the car window. He fell down, and he started crawling away. Nancy came out. DuPont pointed his gun at her. She ran back in the house, called 911. Then he put the last bullet in Dave's back, and that killed him.
Hey, David, it's okay, David. It's okay, David. It's okay, David. It's okay, don't move. It's okay, David. They're coming. They'll be right here. And the person's still conscious, correct, ma'am? No, he's lost consciousness. He's still conscious a little bit. Okay, do you know which way he headed? Which way did John DuPont go? I don't know where he's going. I don't care. Okay, ma'am, I understand that, but we want to, you know. And he's probably gone back to his big house, the mansion. Oh, God, please hurry. Okay, ma'am, they're on the way, okay? Oh, God, I don't hear the sirens yet. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Do you know what the story is? Why did he do that, man? Yes, he's insane.
And I believe that's where we're at.
You know, Dave didn't know why he was being killed. And knowing that he's leaving 2 kids behind. And the pain, the physical pain that he suffered, combined with the confusion over why he was leaving the earth, and leaving 2 kids behind. There couldn't be a worse way to die. I mean, that has to be the just, I can't even imagine.
My best friend, teacher, and coach. He was the most honest person I ever knew.
I figured I had to have been a bad mother for him to have been killed this way.
it. Godspeed.
Nothing mattered after that. Who cared about wrestling or training or... Doesn't matter.
Nobody thought DuPont would trade and living in an 800-acre estate for an 8x10 cell. Nobody thought that he was capable of that.
Shortly after his sentencing, I asked him whether or not he had any thoughts about the shooting. His words to me were, "I regret that Dave is not with us any longer." And he said, I truly mean that, and I regret the pain that it's caused to his family. John spent much of his life trying to get out from under the shadow of the DuPont name. Now the position is reversed, where the DuPont family is trying to get out from the shadow of John DuPont.
John was a sick person. We all knew it. I could have possibly sounded the alarm, and I did nothing because I felt like it would all work out. We were all family, and you just sweep things under the rug.